see Revy on the live stream again, who already has done it once today. So
Oh yeah,
should be
Revs is fine. I'm very familiar with Rev's work. We're being done over by time zones. Oh no, it's alive. It's up. Check the control room. Oh yep, there it goes. Oh my god, my audio went through. Okay, since you're going to probably hand over to Heavy, I would probably just like not run it.
Okay.
Oh, you're not on the Wi-Fi, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'm on mobile.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just that way we don't thrash the mobile tower too much.
Cheaper for me to just get a mobile plan with a shit ton of data than it was for me to get home internet. So.
No, that's fine. I don't know why it keeps skipping.
Hello, roller derby fans. We are not long off kicking off our first playoff game for Tropicarnage 2023. We have East Coast Roller Derby versus Tweed Valley Rollers. I am Purple Rain and I am here to talk all of you on the internet through this game. If you are looking for Coastal Assassins versus Sulphur City Steamrollers, that will be on track 1, but the track 1 is running a little bit behind as the previous game has only finished in the last few minutes. Playing for East Coast Roller Derby today, we have 1-1 Debris, 1-3 Hell's Angel, 1-8 Ham Schlap, 1-9-2 Fred, 2-2-9 Ballistic, 2-4 Sophie, 2-7 Rogue Trooper, 3 Clam Slam, 3-0 Grace, 3-2 Wumpy, 6-6-6 Noisy, 7-2 Vixen, 8-1-2 Crazy, 8-1-5 Shannibal Lecter, 9-2 Frosty Biatch. And on the bench we have Tequila Sheila, Lemming, Pamphlet and Little Mischief. For Tweed Valley Rollers we have 074 Riot, 10 Kiff, 11 Hole and Ass, 1971 Exit Mole, 20 Mischief, 22 Tenacious T, 24 Turtle, 247 Taylor Swiftly, 394 Avarice Ass, 46 Pants, 707 Happy Kilmore, 80 Crafts Cuts, 8008 Buster, 815 Dame Vivian Messwood, 83 Pain Terror, 99 Britches. And on the bench for Tweed we have Comet, Lurch, Bubbles and Sal. Alrighty, and with that we have our 5-second call. We are underway. Jamming for Tweed Valley Rollers we have 10 Kiff, and for East Coast Roller Derby we have 18 Ham Schlap. Ham Slap picking up lead jammer for East Coast. Giff also finding a way out of the pack, completing that initial pass. Ham Slap, though, picking up 4 points and calling the jam for East Coast. East Coast 4, Tweed Valley yet to put points on the board. We have Hell's Angel out to jam next for East Coast, and that is Turtle for Tweed Valley Rollers. And Hell's Angel lead jammer for East Coast. A big hit out on Turtle there by Noisy. Of course it was Noisy. Hell's Angel being sent to the penalty box though, so for a forearms, I believe. So this shall be a 2-minute jam as we no longer have a lead jammer. So we have Turtle also headed to the penalty box. Shell Razor, that is. Oh no, they're down as Turtle today. Ignore me. Hell's Angel back on track from the bin. That is an absolutely giant hit there by Noisy, with that jam being called for medical attention. All right, so current situation is the injured Tweed skater has now been removed from the track, but we have an official review being called by the Tweed Valley Rollers bench. Just an update for those of you at home. The official review is seeking an egregious, sorry, that is a difficult word to say, egregious contact penalty on Black Skater 666 due to the result of the contact on the Tweed Valley Rollers blocker. And looks like we are back in business. We have Rogue Trooper currently jamming unopposed for Tweed Valley Rollers, but Turtle is, as I speak, returning to the track. Sorry, Trooper for East Coast, Turtle for Tweed. It's been a weekend, folks. Turtle is currently lead jammer for Tweed Valley Rollers. Rogue Trooper completing initial pass. And with Noisy remaining on track, I would say that that official review called by Tweed was not successful. Lining up now for Tweed Valley Rollers, we have Tenacious, and that is Ham Schlapp, I believe, out again for East Coast. Ham Schlapp out first, but not declared lead jammer. I believe that's Happy Kilmore currently sitting in the penalty box for Tweed. That is 4 points on the board for Ham Schlapp. Some big falls happening in this game. Tenacious out of the pack and declared lead jammer. Meanwhile, Ham Schlapp headed to the penalty box for a... I am not sure what that is for. Tenacious putting some points on the board for Tweed Valley Rollers. calls the jam and decides, oh no, looks like Ham Schlapp just got out of the penalty box in time at the end of that jam. Scores currently East Coast on 12, but Tweed Valley Rollers are catching up after that jam on 8. Jamming now, we have 1-0 Kiff for Tweed and 1-3 Hells Angel for East Coast. Kiff doing their darndest to stay in bounds, hopping along the outside line, but not quite making it. Hells Angel, bit of confusion with what was happening there. Hells Angel, we have jam refs indicating that both jammers are lead, so there has been a mistake somewhere along the lines. Or maybe a miscommunication. I feel like we should say that our refs never make mistakes. Kiff picking up 4 points. And that is another 4 points for Kiff. And 4 points there for Hells Angel. And that is end of the jam. East Coast on 20 points at the end of that jam, but Tweed Valley Rollers on 16. Rogue Trooper currently jamming for East Coast against Turtle for Tweed Valley Rollers. Trooper is going to the penalty box for a forearms by the looks of things. And that leaves Turtle to claim lead jammer for the Tweed Valley Rollers. Turtle getting ran all the way back by the East Coast defense there. But deciding to call the jam as Rogue Trooper was getting released from the bin. We've had a lead change. Tweed Valley Rollers 24 to East Coast 20. But we are still very early days of this game. We have Ham Schlapp out to jam again for East Coast, and that is Tenacious T for Tweed Valley Rollers. But it is Ham Schlapp lead jammer. Tenacious T also completing initial pass. Ham Schlapp finds a hole, runs like the wind and calls the jam, trying to shut down Tenacious T. 3 points picked up there by East Coast. So we are now at scores. Tweed Valley Rollers still out ahead on 24. East Coast only 1 point behind on 23. We have Kiff back out to jam for Tweed Valley Rollers and Hells Angel back out to jam for East Coast. And Hells Angel is lead jammer. Kiff out of the pack also though and chasing Angel down. East Coast sneaking in 2 points there, taking them to 25. So we've had another lead change. Tweed Valley Rollers remaining on 24. But currently we have a Tweed Valley Rollers power jam about to happen, with Hell's Angel being sent to the penalty box at the end of the previous jam. But right now, we're in an official timeout. Alrighty, we are back from official time out, and we have Turtle taking a power jam for the Tweed Valley Rollers. Hell's Angel remaining in the bin from the previous jam. And Turtle is through for lead jammer. Hell's Angel about to be released from the penalty box though. Hell's Angel hitting that pack. Both jammers a little bit wedged into those tripods at the moment. But Hell's Angel is out to complete initial pass. Tweed bench furiously telling Turtle to call the jam, and Turtle calls it just in time to shut down Hell's Angel. 4 points to Tweed, taking them back out in front. 28 points to East Coast 25. All right. We have Tenacious T jamming for Tweed Valley Rollers. That is Rogue Trooper, your lead jammer for East Coast Roller Derby. We have an East Coast skater in the penalty box, and that is a Shannibal Lecter by the looks of things. Rogue Trooper picking up 4 points for East Coast. Tenacious T being forced to recycle behind debris. And Rogue Trooper trying to show that they can also block as well as jam. We've had a star pass for Tweed. That is Buster, fresh from several months driving around the country and straight back into roller derby. Trooper calling the jam. Had another lead change. East Coast back out in front on 33 points after that jam. If you're into drinking games, potentially a good game to watch. Not that we advocate any of that behaviour. All right. have Ham Schlapp jamming for East Coast, but lead jammer is Kiff for the Tweed Valley Rollers. Ham Schlapp has also completed initial pass, but Kiff getting it out and then calling the jam. We're back to 1 point in this thing. Tweed Valley Rollers 32 to East Coast 33. So it looks like we have had Ham Schlapp go to the bin at the very end of that previous jam. So this is a power jam for Turtle, and Turtle claims lead jammer. Turtle avoiding a chase down from, I believe that was Noisy. No, it was not. I will tell you who that was shortly. Might have been Frost AB Arch, who is also a solid blocker that I would not necessarily want to come across one-on-one. Turtle is through for another 4 points for Tweed. Meanwhile, Ham Schlapp out of the bin and completing initial pass for East Coast. We have had another lead change. Tweed Valley Rollers now leading 43 to East Coast 33. And we have a team timeout currently. Once again, this game is East Coast Roller Derby versus the Tweed Valley Rollers. If you are chasing Coastal Assassins versus Sulphur City Steamrollers, that is currently taking place on track 1, so you will need to jump to the other stream for that game. Coming back from a team timeout now, we have Tenacious T lining up for Tweed, and that is Hell's Angel lining up for East Coast. Tenacious T picking up a lead jammer for Tweed. Hell's Angel also finding their way out of the pack though. Tenacious T calling the jam. Tweed just sneaking in 1 point there, 44, East Coast 33. Lining up on the jammer line now, we have Rogue Trooper for East Coast and Kiff for Tweed Valley Rollers. And it looks like Rogue Trooper is a lead jammer, but Kiff also out of the pack. Rogue Trooper calls the jam. 2 points, 3 points? It's like 3 points for East Coast, taking them to 36. Tweed still out in front on 44. have Turtle out on the jammer line for Tweed Valley Rollers and Ham Schlapp for East Coast. A big run back on Ham Schlapp there. Turtle is declared lead jammer, but Ham Schlapp has been sent to the penalty box for a cut track. Four points for Turtle in this power jam. And another 4 points for Turtle. Ham Schlapp getting ready to come back on track, but Turtle decides to call the jam and ice Ham Schlapp in that penalty box a little longer. Tenacious T taking that power jam for Tweed Valley Rollers. But Ham Schlapp has been released and returns to the track. Tenacious T picking up lead jammer. Ham Schlapp also completing initial pass. Tenacious T calling the jam. East Coast sneaking in 1 point there, taking them to 37. Tweed Valley Rollers extending that lead a little bit to 55. Hell's Angel lining up for East Coast against Kiff for Tweed Valley Rollers. Looks like a slight back advantage to East Coast with a Tweed blocker in the bin. But that does not slow Kiff down. A lead jammer. Hell's Angel also finding a way out of the pack to complete initial pass. A big hit from Noisy, sending the Tweed Valley Rollers pivot into Tenacious T. Sorry, that was Kiff. And Kiff calls the jam. We have Turtle lining up to jam against Rogue Trooper for East Coast. Rogue Trooper making quick work of that initial pass for East Coast. Turtle still looking for that initial pass as Rogue Trooper comes through for 4 points for East Coast. Turtle headed to the penalty box, I believe. Meanwhile, oh no. I am mishearing the referees. Rogue Trooper picking up 4 points. Turtle completing initial pass, but Rogue Trooper calling the jam, shutting down Turtle's opportunity to score. Tweed Valley Rollers still ahead on 57. East Coast catching up a bit again though, 49. 8 minutes left to go in this first half, and still very much a situation where anything could happen. Tenacious T out to jam for Tweed, and that is Ham Schlapp jamming for East Coast. And Ham Schlapp being slapped with a penalty. I believe that was maybe a forearms. Tenacious T declared lead jammer in this power jam. Tenacious T is through for 4 points for Tweed. Meanwhile, Ham Schlapp imminently returning to the track. But Tenacious T calls the jam. Tweed on 61 after that jam. East Coast remaining on 49. And we have a Tweed team timeout. Alrighty, we are back from our team timeout. We have Kiff lining up for the Tweed Valley Rollers, and that is Hell's Angel for East Coast Roller Derby.
Very good. Oh, yeah.
Looks like Kiff has been issued a penalty and sent to the sin bin. A back block, perhaps. Leaving Hell's Angel free to claim lead jammer for East Coast. Hell's Angel through for 4 points for East Coast. And Kiff is back from the bin. Kiff getting a long run back there from Froste Biatch. Kiff completing initial pass for Tweed Valley Rollers, but Hell's Angel decides to call the jam. Scores tightening up again. Tweed Valley Rollers 61, East Coast 57. Rogue Trooper seems to have evolved into some kind of crab, and it seems appropriate that they are jamming against a turtle. Rogue Trooper picking up lead jammer for East Coast. Meanwhile, Turtle getting recycled by the East Coast defense. Rogue Trooper through for 4 points for East Coast. Turtle completing initial pass, but Rogue Trooper getting through and calling the jam. We have had another lead change. East Coast on 69, Tweed 61. We have had a very, very brief official timeout there, but we are about ready to get back into it. We have Ham Schlapp jamming for East Coast Roller Derby against Tenacious T for Tweed Valley Rollers. And Ham Schlapp is lead jammer, but Tenacious T not far behind. Tenacious T going for some jammer on jammer action, but the jam is called. Scores remain 69-61 in East Coast's favour. And we are back in an official timeout. Alrighty, looks like we are ready to resume the last 3 minutes of this first half. We have Kif out to jam for Tweed Valley Rollers, and that is Hell's Angel for East Coast. But it is Kif lead jammer. Kif coming in for a scoring pass. Meanwhile, Hell's Angel still looking for that initial. Kif through for 4 points. Hell's Angel completing initial pass. Tweed going for quick points and a call off. It's like some jammer ref maths happening there though. Yes, points awarded to both teams there. Tweed Valley 67 to East Coast 72. We have Turtle out to jam for Tweed against Rogue Trooper for East Coast. Rogue Trooper lead jammer for East Coast. Turtle also completing initial pass. Rogue Trooper calling the jam after picking up 4 points for East Coast, taking them to 76. Tweed Valley Rollers 67. Sitting side by side, they are two very satisfying scores to look at. Bit of a palindrome. Just over a minute left on the period clock, so potentially our final jam for the half. We have Kif jamming for Tweed Valley Rollers against Ham Schlapp for East Coast. Kif has picked up lead jammer for Tweed. Ham Schlapp still working on that initial pass. Ham slap through for that initial pass. Tiff calling the jam. And I believe we'll have just enough time left on that period clock to have one last little jam in there. Some kind of false start with this final jam. It's like perhaps Tweed did not field a jammer, in which case there will probably be a captain's penalty issued. The scoreboard has gone to half time, but I believe there will still be one more jam. We have a ref huddle happening in the middle of the track there, so perhaps figuring out what is going on and what will happen. I'll report back when I know anything at all. All right. Looks like we are about ready to go with this a final jam of the half. That is Turtle jamming for Tweed and Hell's Angel jamming for East Coast. Lead jammer is awarded to Hell's Angel. And looks like a penalty has been awarded to Turtle. A cut track. And Hell's Angel is through for 4 points for East Coast. Tweed losing a blocker to the penalty box. I believe that is Happy Kilmore. Hell's Angel headed to the penalty box for a cut track, so not only do we get a one final jam, we get a 2-minute final jam. Turtle is back on track. Turtle getting run back by Sophie on the inside there. Tenacious headed to the penalty box. Turtle completing initial pass as Hell's Angel is released from the penalty box. Turtle has completed a scoring pass, picking up 4 points for Tweed. Hell's Angel picking up 4 points for East Coast. And that is jam over. So we should be going into half time now, I believe. There we go. We have East Coast leading on 84 going into halftime. Tweed Valley Rollers not far behind on 76. So this is not a second half that anyone should want to miss. We'll be back in about 15 minutes. All right, we just had the rolling whistle signifying the end of timeout and the return to play. Out jamming for East Coast, we have Rogue Trooper, and that is Kiff jamming for Tweed Valley Rollers. If you missed the first half, things are currently pretty tight on the scoreboard, so things could still go either way. Currently, lead jammer is Kiff for Tweed. Trooper also completing initial pass though. Kiff takes the points and calls off the jam, taking Tweed Valley Rollers to 80 points. We are back to 4 points in this thing with East Coast just ahead on 84. Turtle out to jam next for Tweed against Hell's Angel for East Coast. And lead jammer is Ham Schlapp for East Coast. Turtle also completing initial pass though. Ham Schlapp calling the jam. Sneaking in 1 point there for East Coast, extending their lead to 5 points. Hell's Angel are lining up to jam against Kiff for Tweed. Kiff getting recycled just a little bit there by the East Coast defense. Meanwhile, Hell's Angel picking up a lead jammer for East Coast. Kiff also completing initial pass. Hell's Angel calling the jam just in time to shut Kiff down. Just 2 sneaky points in there for East Coast, chipping away at that lead, taking it to 87 to Tweed's 80 points. On the jammer line now we have Tenacious T for Tweed and Rogue Trooper for East Coast. That is Rogue Trooper lead jammer for East Coast. Tenacious T completing initial pass. East Coast calling the jam. Another 2 points. 89 points to 80 is our current score. Ham Schlapp for East Coast up against Turtle for Tweed on the jammer line. Ham Schlapp getting recycled back by the Tweed Valley Rollers defense. And now Turtle getting recycled by East Coast. It is Ham Schlapp lead jammer for East Coast, but with a little hop around the apex, Turtle also completes initial pass. The jam is called. East Coast 90 after that jam to Tweed Valley 80. Just 10 points in it. Hell's Angel lining up to jam for East Coast against Kiff for Tweed Valley Rollers. Exit Mole running Hell's Angel all the way back. There is bodies hitting the floor through the chaos. Both jammers getting out, but Kif is lead. Kif disregarding the advice of the bench and going for the points rather than the call. Tweed Valley Rollers still coming out the better in that jam with 4 points scored. East Coast only picking up 2. East Coast still in the lead though, 92 to 84. We have Tenacious T out on the jammer line for Tweed and Rogue Trooper for East Coast. And Tenacious T picking up lead, a jammer for Tweed. Tweed do lose Britches to the penalty box though. Rogue Trooper also completing initial pass. Tenacious T going for the points and call off. It looks like Tenacious T getting sent to the penalty box for a back block at the end of the jam. So a power jam start for Ham Schlapp for East Coast. Currently only at 7 points the difference in this game. Tweed Valley 86, East Coast 93. But that's all about to change with this power jam to East Coast. Ham Schlapp picking up lead jammer. Ham Schlapp is through for 4 points. Tenacious T just about to be released from the penalty box for Tweed. Ham Schlapp calling off the jam. It's like just 1 point in that secondary pass there. East Coast 98, Tweed Valley Rollers 86. We have Turtle out to jam for Tweed against Hell's Angel for East Coast. Hell's Angel is lead jammer, but Turtle is just ahead of Hell's Angel. Hell's Angel crashing to the ground and calling the jam. And we have a double donuts jam by the looks of it. No points scored by either team. Rogue Trooper out to jam for East Coast against Kif for Tweed. Lead jammer is Kif for Tweed. Rogue Trooper also completing initial pass. Rogue Trooper going for the apex jump, but not quite landing it. Kif is through for 4 points for Tweed. Rogue Trooper through for 4 points for East Coast. Tweed potentially running things a little bit longer to try and get some of these blockers out of the bin. Ending the jam with 2 blockers in the penalty box. On the scoreboard, East Coast still out in front on 102, but things are still very tight. 91 for Tweed, 11 points the difference. This jam could make a difference though. We have only one Tweed blocker on the track presently. That is Exit Mole, making the life not too difficult for Hamschlap to get through and claim lead jammer for East Coast. And that is Tenacious T currently jamming against that, in comparison, a massive amount of East Coast blockers. Tenacious T completing initial pass though. Hamschlap takes their 4 points and calls the jam. East Coast 106 to Tweeds 91. Hell's Angel out on the jammer line now for East Coast, and Turtle jamming for Tweed, and Turtle picks up lead jammer. Currently a clean penalty box, so all 5 skaters from each team on track. Turtle picking up 4 points for Tweed Valley Rollers. Meanwhile, Hell's Angel completing initial pass. Turtle sneaking in another scoring pass and then calling the jam, but Hell's Angel having time to sneak in two cheeky points there. Tweed Valley Rollers 99, East Coast still out on front on 108, but only at 9 points in it. We are currently in a team timeout for Tweed. Alrighty, we are back from that team time out. We have Kiff jamming for Tweed Valley Rollers, and that is Hell's Angel jamming for East Coast, and Kiff is lead jammer. Hell's Angel also completing initial pass. But Kiff takes the points and calls off the jam. Tweed Valley Rollers closing up that gap again, 103 to East Coast 108. Tenacious T for Tweed and Road Trooper for East Coast, sharing a joke on the jammer line. It's always nice to see smiles and hugs and stuff between the teams, even in a high-stakes game like this. Rogue Trooper picking up a lead jammer for East Coast. But going to the bin for a back block on Tenacious T. So this will be a 2-minute jam. Tenacious T really getting locked down there by that strong East Coast tripod. But Tenacious T through for initial pass. Trooper, however, back on track from the penalty box. Making quick work of a 4-point pass for East Coast. Tenacious T managing to stay in bounds for a scoring pass there, picking up 4 points for Tweed. Rogue Trooper finding a near empty inside line to pick up another 4 points for East Coast. Meanwhile, Tenacious T getting run back by East Coast defense. And that jam clock has expired. We are back to a 10-point score differential. East Coast 117 out in front. Tweed Valley not far behind though, 107. We are just about getting into the final quarter of this game. We have Turtle out jamming for Tweed, but lead jammer is Ham Schlapp for East Coast. Turtle also completing initial pass for Tweed. Ham Schlapp calling off the jam. East Coast taking their lead to 122. Tweed Valley Rollers remaining on 107. Hell's Angel lining up to jam for East Coast against Kiff for Tweed. Tweed currently down their pivot, who remains in the penalty box from the previous jam. So a slight pack advantage to East Coast. A big takedown there on Kiff. I believe that was Frost Davy Arch once again. But Kiff recovers to pick up a lead jammer for Tweed. Hell's Angel is off to the penalty box for a cut track penalty. Kiff picking up 4 points for Tweed. Kiff coming back around for the second pass of this power jam, another 4 points for Tweed. Kiff coming around again, but calling the jam just as Hell's Angel is released from the bin. This score gap has once again tightened up considerably. There is now only 3 points in this game. Tweed Valley Rollers 119, but East Coast just ahead, on 122. We have Turtle jamming for Tweed and Rogue Trooper for East Coast. Rogue Trooper managing to fend off some Tweed defense at the front of the pack there to pick up a lead jammer. Turtle headed to the penalty box for a forearms as Rogue Trooper gets recycled by the Tweed defense. Rogue Trooper calling the jam, I guess deciding to give as long a power jam as possible to a fresh East Coast jammer. 2 points picked up in that jam. East Coast 103 points, correction. East Coast 125. Tweed Valley Rollers 119. Taking that power jam for East Coast is Ham Schlapp. Britches drawing Ham Schlapp back as far as possible. But Ham Schlapp picks up a lead jammer. Ooh, a bit of chaos on the track there. Ham Schlapp running over a Tweed blocker. Ham Schlapp through for 4 points. Turtle back on track and completing initial pass for Tweed. Debris is sitting in the penalty box for East Coast. At the end of that jam, we have Tweed Valley Rollers on 119. East Coast remaining in front on 132. We have Kiff lining up to jam against Hell's Angel for East Coast. Slight pack advantage to Tweed. But unfortunately for Tweed, Kiff is being sent to the penalty box for a cut track. Some big hits there on the Tweed defense by Noisy. Hell's Angel, though, completing initial pass and through as lead jammer for East Coast. Kiff is heading back on track from the penalty box as Hell's Angel works on that scoring pass through a solid wall of Tweed. But seeing Kiff about to get initial, Hell's Angel calls the jam. Only managing to pick up 2 points in that jam. East Coast 134, Tweed remaining on 119. We have Tenacious T lining up to jam for Tweed and Rogue Trooper out for East Coast. And we have an official timeout. All right, the official timeout is over. We have Rogue Trooper for East Coast out on track and Tenacious T for Tweed Valley Rollers. And Rogue Trooper lead jammer for East Coast. Tenacious T also completing initial pass. Trooper calling the jam just in time to shut down Tenacious T. East Coast 137 to Tweed's 119. Ham Schlapp lining up on the jammer line for East Coast against Turtle for Tweed. Currently a pack advantage to Tweed with the East Coast pivot in the bin, but they have just returned to the track. Looks like potentially a big hit there on one of the Tweed skaters. Turtle picks up a lead, jammer for Tweed. Ham Schlapp also completing initial pass. Looks like a bit of chaos at the end of that jam there. Current situation is Turtle sitting in the penalty box as a jammer for Tweed. So the next jam, when it does occur, will be an East Coast power jam for Hell's Angel by the looks of things. But right now, we have an official timeout while everyone works out what is happening. And we are back from official timeout. We have Hell's Angel about to take a power jam for East Coast Roller Derby. We have 7 minutes left on the period clock. Hell's Angel getting knocked out of bounds by the Tweed Valley Rollers defense. Hell's Angel declared lead jammer. Turtle is back on track from the penalty box. Turtle completes initial pass. But Hell's Angel picks up 4 points and calls the jam. East Coast 141 in about the biggest lead we've seen all game to Tweed Valley Rollers 119. We have Rogue Trooper out to a jam for East Coast and Kiff jamming for Tweed. It is Rogue Trooper picking up a lead jammer. Kiff also completing initial pass for Tweed Valley. Trooper calls the jam after picking up 4 points. East Coast 145 to Tweed 119. We have Ham Schlapp lining up to jam for East Coast and Tenacious T for Tweed. Currently clean penalty box, so all skaters with all teams with their full contingent of skaters. And I always jinx people doing that. I feel like by saying that, I just sent debris to the penalty box. But lead jammer for East Coast is Ham Schlapp. A Tweed blocker also sitting in the penalty box. Both teams giving these defensive walls their all. Tenacious T completing initial pass. Ham Schlapp out for 4 points and calls the jam.
Roland Derby fan, Nathan Nolan for the 13. Stockport City.
To answer the question in the chat, the winner of this game will play the winner of the game currently on track 1 for the Div 1 Grand Final. Hell's Angel currently taking a power jam for East Coast Roller Derby, with Tenacious T sent to the penalty box for a penalty at the end of the previous jam. Hell's Angel declared lead jammer. Tenacious T being released from the penalty box. A couple of Tweed blockers currently in the penalty box. Looks like a incomplete scoring pass there for Hell's Angel. And then a 4-point scoring pass for Hell's Angel. That revolving door of Tweed Valley Rollers blockers in the penalty box continuing. That is the end of the jam. East Coast extending their lead a bit in that one, taking them to 160. Tweed Valley Rollers 119. We are entering the final 2 minutes of this game. We are potentially down to the last jam, maybe more. We'll see. What we have now, though, is an official timeout. The briefest of official timeouts, as it is already over. We have Turtle out to jam for Tweed against Rogue Trooper for East Coast. And Rogue Trooper lead jammer for East Coast. Turtle also completing initial pass. Rogue Trooper calling the jam. We have a minute left on the jam clock, so time for at least one more jam. Period clock, rather. Looking like 4 points to East Coast on that one. Take them to 160. Tweed on 119. All right, lead jammer currently on track for Tweed is Kith. Ham Schlapp jamming for East Coast and also completing initial pass. Kith takes the points and calls the jam. We are short on time on that period clock. The only way we get an extra jam now is if someone calls a timeout. looks like our teams have decided to let this game run its course. Final scores. Tweed 123, but taking the game, East Coast 160. We will see them in the Division 2 Grand Final tomorrow against, I believe it will be Sulphur City Steamrollers. I have been over here and not watching that game. But I have been Purple Rain. We have plenty more action coming up today on Track 1. I believe it is potentially Sunstate versus Canberra about to kick off on Track 1. I've been Purple Rain, and we will catch you on a live stream sometime soon.